Appreciate you coming out. So does anybody know how many brands are in the top 100 most subscribed on YouTube? Mark? Two? No? No? Way off. All right, well, what about Facebook or Twitter? No guesses? All right, well, on YouTube, it's 6. On Facebook and Twitter, it's quite a bit more. We've got 16 on Twitter, 41 on Facebook. And why is this the case? Well, on YouTube, you can't buy your way to success the same way you can on Facebook and Twitter. You can't buy subscribers like you can, Twitter followers and Facebook likes. So to a certain extent, YouTube is really the ultimate litmus test for brands. Are you creating content that people actually want to engage with? And the reality is, it's not rocket science, but this is a big challenge for brands. That said, if kids, 18-year-olds are able to get millions and millions of subscribers, you would think that Fortune 500 companies, with all the resources and dollars at their disposal, would be able to be successful and outperform guys like this.
The first thing that pisses me off is ketchup. What? Ketchup? Yeah, it just sucks cow nipples. You're making a delicious hot dog when this happens. Oh!
So this channel, you guys get the idea. This channel has 6 million subscribers, and that's quite a bit more than any other brand on YouTube, which, that's a pretty sorry state of affairs. But that said, all right, cool. So maybe brands aren't doing so well on YouTube, but is it worthwhile even? Should brands be putting in the time and energy and money that it takes to be successful? Well, I would argue yes, it is worth investing in those subscribers, and it's worth it for a number of reasons. One, YouTube is now the largest social network within the US. It's got more millennials than any other cable network, and subscribers watch twice as much content than non-subscribers. So you're getting a lot of earned viewership as the result of building a community. So it's worthwhile, but how do you go about cultivating a community? It's easier said than done. So you build it through 4 steps. Once again, easier said than done, but those are really implementing the YouTube best practices. And this is really the YouTube playbook. You can look it up online, but just kind of making sure you've got your best practices in place. 2 is going with what people know. Not overcomplicating things, not using jargon and getting caught up in the marketing campaigns that you're creating and overcomplicating things. 3 is focusing on a human connection. Creating an emotional connection with your viewers is far more important than creating glossy production. And lastly, you've got to iterate like hell. It's a lot of trial and error to make content that's engaging. You've got to learn, look at the insights, rinse and repeat. So step 1, best practices. Obviously, this is important. Like I said, you can look this up. It's the YouTube playbook and apply all this stuff. But you've really got to get in place your titles, tags, descriptions, thumbnails, your annotations. These are going to be driving engagement. Your end cards, that's going to drive your viewers to multiple videos as well as convert them to subscribers. The same thing goes with in-video programming. And these aren't going to be a game changer. If you've got a bad channel, you're still going to have a bad channel. It'll just be 10% better. But it is the foundation for a channel, and it does add up over time. Those end cards, you're getting 10 to 20% click-through rates. 50% of all YouTube video views are generated as the result of related videos. So this stuff is important, but it's really just the foundation for a successful channel. Which leads me to go with what people know. A great example of this is, so about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, YouTube rolled out the one-channel design. So just a new layout for YouTube channels and the way people view videos. What did brands do immediately? Well, a lot of them are paying tens of thousands of dollars to implement YouTube gadgets. These are essentially applications that brands are paying a lot of money to third parties to implement. Now, this allows a lot of customization. But what do you think happens when teenagers who are spending on average like 13 hours a week on YouTube visit a page like this where the UI is totally different, the dynamics have totally changed, it's an unfamiliar environment? Well, it doesn't perform particularly well. On average, when you look at brand channels with gadgets and without gadgets, brand channels with gadgets get 50% fewer subscriptions. Engagement is significantly lower. The amount of shares is way lower. So you're not generating as much earned viewership. So it's really important to just keep in mind kind of the existing user behaviors and leverage those. Don't overcomplicate things. The same is true with simple things like titles, tags, descriptions. These are a few titles I pulled out from Walmart and T-Mobile. I don't know what hashtag the tech you want cyber event announcement with Trey Songz really means. I don't know if anybody else does, but if I was scrolling, I was scrolling through things looking for basically nonsense titles, and this one stood out, but if I was looking for something that made sense and I wanted to really click on, this would not be it. Why not use something like Trey Songz hosts a tech event for Walmart? You don't want to overcomplicate things, and that's something I think we as marketers and brands tend to really do is we end up speaking to ourselves, and as a result, we lose a lot of potential consumers in the process. So don't overcomplicate things. Don't speak in campaign. Don't speak in jargon. Understand that the consumers out there aren't as invested in the content that you're creating as you are. It's also important to focus on a human connection. What do I mean by this? Well, of the top 100 channels on YouTube, 86 of them are actually built around one or two key personalities. It's not a huge cast of characters revolving, door of, almost sitcom style. It's really like one or two core people that are the centerpiece of every piece of content. And I think this is indicative of what people really care about. We like to see other people. We care a lot more about that than we do about glossy production. One brand that I think does a great job with this is Nike, and Nike's obviously incredibly well known for their viral videos, but that's really kind of the tip of the iceberg. The foundation for their channel is a lot of content like their Nike Academy series. Basically, they've got a boot camp out in the UK where they've got coaches helping up-and-coming footballers learn different skills and so on. And the coaches regularly contribute content to the channel. It's really a lot of tips and tricks. But these coaches are personalities, and the viewers of the channels see them week in and week out. And they do quite well. Here's an example of one.
The lads have got a game tomorrow. We like to go for a routine that we feel covers everything. Getting the boys into line, shot stopping, keeping the ball out of the net, working on the technique. We talk about the perfect save and the shape, this and that, but first and foremost, keep that ball out of the net. So we start off a jog and a stretch, covering the movement that we'll be using again. Then we go into some footwork just without the ball, because nobody makes saves unless you move your feet. Your feet are what get you around the goal. Then we go into just some light.
It's nothing fancy, but people do become invested in these personalities, and obviously the content is providing a lot of value for people who are football fans. As a result, these videos tend to get something between 50 to 500,000 views, but there's a lot of engagement, hundreds of comments, thousands of favorites. But compare this to something like what's on the Toyota YouTube channel. It's a commercial, and this is what the majority of their content tends to be.
Build anything with the new Toyota Tundra. Toyota, let's go places.
So here we've got a commercial that probably costs, $200,000, $300,000 to produce. It clearly had a big media budget behind it. It had about 3 million views, but 40 comments. Now compare this to the Nike football content. 3 million views, really not a lot of engagement, incredibly expensive. But on the other end of the spectrum, we've got the Nike football content. It's generating about 500,000 views. It's organic, hundreds of comments. And on an engagement basis, we're seeing the Nike football content generating about 50x the amount of engagement per view compared to this type of stuff. So ultimately what it boils down to is the emotional connection matters much more than the production quality. It doesn't need to be hundreds of thousands of dollars to be successful. It's really just got to provide value, and you've got to create a face to the brand for people to get invested in and rally behind. So lastly, you've got to iterate like hell. The really successful channels are creating a lot of content, but around just a handful of topics. So this is your typical brand channel. There's a ton of stuff on here. There's probably a dozen TV commercials. There's different music partnerships. There's behind the scenes. There's probably how-tos. It's not really standing for a single message. And when there's as much competition as there is, you really need to craft an identity that is ownable. So you've got a lot of competition. There's 100 hours of content being uploaded every single minute. There's about 6 trillion ads being served every single day. You don't have a lot of opportunity to send a lot of disparate messages out there and for it to resonate. You've got to say one thing. You've got to say it again and again and again for it to sink in. So compare this with what a lot of the successful YouTube creators are doing. We've got epic rap battles. It's one central theme. They do the epic rap battles mashups every week, but they do have a little bit of behind the scenes, and they've done one other video, epic rap battle news. Philip DeFranco Show, 3.3 million subscribers. The entire channel every single day is the Phil DeFranco Show. People know what they're subscribing to, and they know what they're coming back for. Epic Mealtime, their channel, 6.6 million subscribers. For the majority of the lifetime of the channel, it's been one show, Epic Mealtime. Just in the last maybe 6 months or so, they've started testing out a new program, Handle It. So the key takeaway is here is, create a lot of content, but around one theme, one type of show, so you can iterate on it and make it better and better and better. And you can really see this evolution when you look at a lot of these creators and their early videos to the videos that they're creating now. For example, take a look at, I think this is this might be the first video that Epic Mealtime ever made, actually.
Can I get some popcorn chicken, please? Crunchwrap Supreme, please. Now we're cruising by McDonald's, Golden Arches. Gonna hook up that Big Mac, baby! That Big Mac, baby! With some chicken nuggets.
What's up, Dennis Wendy's. Come on, can I take your order?
It's me. I want the Baconator again. Just the sandwich, please, and a French fry.
You better take the combo. It's cheaper.
It's cheaper?
Well, for...
So that's, we don't need to watch the whole thing, but that's I think their very first episode. But now let's look at a more recent episode.
Today we're making something with a whole bunch of peanut butter because we got a whole bunch of peanut butter. And you know what? We got a whole bunch of dogs in the next room too. And we're not gonna do what everyone thinks we're gonna do when you have a whole bunch of peanut butter and dogs and just...
So, you get the idea. It's the exact same show, but they've perfected their formula. I mean, they're looking at the insights, and I've heard, I saw Harley on a couple panels one time saying, he really pays attention to everything people are saying. And like the whole bacon thing, I mean, more bacon, more bacon, more bacon, that was coming out of all the comments he was getting. Every single time they posted a video, they're like, use more bacon, use more bacon. And now they've nailed that formula. And even still though, they're refining it. But when you create content around one central theme, one central topic, you're able to leverage your insights again and again and again and understand what what little tweaks you need to make, what pieces of content people really gravitate towards. You know, when you're creating, something like, what Kmart is doing, where they've got 20 different pieces of content, you can't leverage the insights from, a TV commercial from one random campaign to, some behind-the-scenes video from another campaign to some music video from some random artist you did a partnership with. What these guys have done is, they've really focused, and they're creating a lot of content, which allows them to apply lessons learned week over week. So, build upon fewer ideas. So to recap, what really works? Don't speak campaign. It's really easy to, end up creating stuff that's talking to yourself. Emotion trumps production. Really focus on developing that human connection. What's the face of the brand? And focus the message. Create a lot of content around one central theme and iterate on that, refine it over time. And with that, you'll be able to create an amazing channel. It's just as easy as those 4 steps. Thank you. It's not really that easy. It's pretty hard. But any questions? Yeah.
This is one I've asked a number of folks that are doing YouTube stuff, where we have since Google has kind of killed rich snippets and reduced the availability of thumbnails and focused thumbnails, all kind of a way different approach, and you're not really able to use your video thumbnails most people aren't able to get the benefit of using their thumbnails. Are there some things you can recommend for people who are wanting to leverage YouTube? Is YouTube kind of lost to us now as an SEO tool, or is there some tricks that maybe you can, or a mindset you can help us with for using it for brand awareness?
Yeah, I would say, and actually, you should talk to Mark Robertson right here, right in the front row. He runs Real SEO. Sorry. The question was, I'm so sorry, I totally forgot about this. I've got to repeat the question. So the question was, is YouTube still a valuable brand awareness tool, and has its value as within SEO diminished? Is that more or less correct?
That's the correct way of putting it, yeah.
Cool. Well, like I said, I think Mark can answer the SEO question far better than I could. But in terms of it being a brand awareness tool, I think it's huge. The communities on YouTube are super engaged. Actually, I had done a study, an analysis of the top 5 brands on Facebook versus Twitter to see what kind of the engagement rates were, and it was like way, way higher on a per post basis and like a per fan subscriber basis on YouTube. So I think there's tons of opportunity, and you look at what the creators have been able to do with no media dollars. We've got PewDiePie, who's just like off, in his own world, but there's over 10,000 channels with at least 50,000 subscribers, and the majority of those are total amateurs. And brands tend to be far behind that. So I think there's still a ton of opportunity. Does that answer the question?
Well, it was kind of an oblique answer to an amorphous question, but it was short on specifics, but long on
Okay. Yeah, there's hope. There's hope. And I think, like I said, I don't want to pawn it off onto Mark, but he could probably address the SEO stuff. Yeah, the SEO thing for sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
Is there sort of a best practices for sharing your content on other social media sites, things to do, not to do?
Yeah. So what are the best practices for sharing video on other platforms? I would say a general rule of thumb is platforms tend to prioritize their content posted natively than content from another platform being promoted within it. Facebook doesn't want to drive people off to YouTube. YouTube doesn't want to drive people out to Facebook. So all of them, their algorithms are really based on rewarding content that's keeping people on site as long as possible. So, if your goal is how can I get as many views on this piece of content, probably the best thing to do would be post it natively within each individual platform. But that's like an oversimplified thing. I mean, obviously, if you've got, you've invested in a lot of subscribers, on one platform, it can change the dynamic, but generally, the platforms prioritize stuff posted to their platform. Yeah. Yes?
Clearly you've got good information indicating that you can reach an audience of millennials or below. Is that the exclusive domain here, or can we do something else?
Yeah. So is YouTube exclusively millennials, or is there an opportunity to reach other demographics outside of that? It definitely skews younger. That said, I mean, YouTube gets 1 billion uniques a month, I believe. So it's not all kids. It definitely like over-indexes that route, but I mean, everybody is on there, for sure. Does that answer the question? All right, cool, cool. Yeah. Is there a way to, so is there a way to make YouTube like videos password protected? Not that I know of. There is like you can pay for specific channels. I know they rolled out, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know about a year ago they rolled out a program where you could actually, there were like paid channels. But to be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time with that. I can send you a link if you want to send me your email. I can send you some information on it. Cool. Yes, Mark.
Put you on the spot, but what would you say is one or two well-known brands that you think are doing everything right?
So what are one or two well-known brands that are doing everything right? Obviously, there's Red Bull and GoPro. Everybody goes to them. So I'll try not to talk about them. But I mean, I think Nike does a great job. Nike football specifically. So they create great kind of viral hero content. They had their during the World Cup. They weren't an official sponsor, but they created an awesome piece of content. I forget what the name of it was, but it generated something like 100 million views. So they get kind of like the mass awareness, viral, branded content. They understand the search components on YouTube. Kind of, they know exactly who their target demographic is, and they're creating content to capture those people based on their existing interests. So all the Nike Academy stuff, I mean, literally, it's like all these how-tos that kids, or really anybody who loves football is actively searching for, like, how to do all these moves, how to train. I mean, it's pretty in-depth stuff. And so there's a lot of valuable content in there that they're just constantly pulling people in through search. And then they do a decent job with creating kind of like recurring series. They've they had some success with this cartoon series called Ask Zlatan. And he did, like, every couple of days, he was doing a Q&A with different commenters. So it was pretty interactive. It was also recurring, so it kept all the subscribers pretty engaged. And so really the kind of Nike Academy stuff and that recurring content built a nice foundation for when the World Cup video came out, and the name totally is escaping me. Their whole channel just blew up. I mean, they got, I don't know, 500,000 subscribers over a 3-month window. And it wasn't just, it's easy to kind of point to the viral video, but it wasn't just that. It was the network effect of all this content. Yeah. Yes?
Do you have any thoughts on how media brands have content that's not necessarily built for YouTube in general, and outside of the brands there, still engaging with users, like not really platform?
Yeah. So, Yeah. So how do media companies leverage YouTube that wasn't necessarily made for the platform? Yes. That's something that a lot of media companies are struggling with. I've worked with a few. You can do all the optimization and tag everything, so you're capturing people who are actively pursuing that content. I think one thing that's gone relatively untapped, though, is kind of repackaging the content with relevant influencers and creators with established audiences. I mean, why not do, take your video and create a pop-up video style version of the content, or Mystery Science Theater 3000 almost, have influencers comment on it. So it gives them an excuse to pull their audiences in, and you don't necessarily have to go out and like reproduce something totally new from scratch. If there was one tactic I would say that's kind of been left, that nobody's really leveraged, I would say that would be it. I mean, because it's going to work. Those guys have huge audiences, and so long as the content is relevant and they're not saying something that they wouldn't naturally be saying, it would grow subscribers overnight. Yes?
A lot of brands have tried that on Instagram and other venues, and they don't see a lot of traction with that. I would assume maybe YouTube would probably be better because they are engaging. Where have you seen that work? Is it like the cross-promotional on each other's videos, or how have you seen that work well?
Yeah, I mean, so the question, how has influencer brand collaborations worked well? Is that more or less the question? All right. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the goal. I mean, there are a few ways you can go about it. I mean, obviously, you can simply have an influencer create a piece of branded content, and it goes out to their channel, and you get awareness, or maybe they're pointing people somewhere. In terms of helping grow a community, I know I work with Mountain Dew, and they're working with Devin Supertramp, for example. He does a lot of cool kind of almost action sports type content. And so he's created a few videos for Mountain Dew, and he hasn't even pointed to Dew, like with annotations or end cards or anything like that. And I remember one video he did, it was hugely successful. And just as a halo effect, within a week, Mountain Dew got 5,000 subscribers. And there was nothing else going on to really attribute those two. So that's an indirect kind of example, but no doubt about it, if you have an influencer in a piece of branded content, they can create a piece of content that lives on their channel, have an end card to it, and drive their fans to it, and those fans will convert really, really well. Yeah. Yes?
One, for all the good things you can say about YouTube, there's one that continues to consternate pretty much everybody that's a YouTuber at all. That's the boiling vat of misery and despair that is the comment section
Yeah.
of YouTube. How should we manage that? Should we allow comments, not allow them to manage them? And is that relevant to what we're talking about? It doesn't even move the needle one way or another.
Yeah. Well, it definitely has an impact. So engagement is something that YouTube takes into account. I remember seeing something, I was reading an article, PewDiePie turned off all his comments. And the average views per video after that declined a bit. So that's one example of it having a direct impact. That said, I think comments are good. Yes, oftentimes they're nasty. It's a bit of a cesspool. But YouTube has done a lot in like the last year and a half to help brands in particular clean that up. I mean, you can add filtering. You can block people. There's like a whole dashboard dedicated to the community side of things. So you can really filter things, comments, block people and so on. So they're really trying to weigh in on that. Yes.
Have you seen instances where the longer form content
have I seen instances where longer form content has been successful on YouTube? Yes. I mean, I can't think of a time where I specifically have worked on like something that was like 2 hours long. I know I've done stuff like 45 minutes long. And yeah, I mean, it's all about relevancy. I mean, if you're distributing content to that community that is expecting that, they want it. And people will always take more of what they like, especially if it's free, and YouTube is free. Where I think it tends to not work particularly well is, yes, people have a short attention span. But on the flip side, brands in particular are not necessarily the best content creators. There's a lot of brands trying to be kind of media companies. But there's a pretty steep learning curve, and I think everybody's just trying to figure that out. So typically, retention on any type of brand-created content tends to be pretty low. But I have done some stuff with some individuals who have created 45-minute, hour-long content, and people, half the people will sit there and watch the entire thing. Any other questions? Yes.
So our station has a YouTube channel that is becoming a really important part of what we're doing. We have a particular show that has content that fits very well on YouTube, and we often get videos that will get to several 100,000 views organically. And I want your opinion about how might we throw gas on that fire?
Yeah.
They'll get there in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And what can you do, or should you do anything to sort of promote those videos to get them sort of over that hump, to get to the 1 million views mark, or whatever it is you're expecting?
Yeah, yeah. All right, so the question is, they've got a lot of content that tends to already be doing pretty well. It's hitting the 100,000 mark, several 100,000 mark. How do you get it to 1 million and beyond? I mean, easier said than done. But I think one thing that tends to work really well, one strategy, and we could talk more if you wanted. I mean, this is definitely oversimplified, but one tactic that I think works really, really well is build in kind of like almost like an echo chamber in advance. If you know this specific type of content is going to appeal to these type of bloggers, or like let me rephrase that. So typically people go to the same 5 to 7 sites every single day, their favorite blogs. So if you know exactly who you're targeting, you can pretty easily figure out the blogs that they're going to every single day. Now, if this content is relevant to them, it'd be great to figure out a way, maybe it's an exclusive, embargo, some sort of access, time it so that they're all posting within a relatively focused period of time. Because then what happens is it creates the illusion for that target audience that this content is everywhere. And then that creates a snowball effect. I mean, it's really interesting when you nail that. I mean, and it's pretty difficult, but like I said, people don't go to 100 sites every day. They go to 5 to 7. So if you can get even half of those, people will feel like this one piece of content is everywhere, even if it's only on the same 3 sites. And then that really sparks sharing because they think it's going to be popular, so they want to jump on the bandwagon and share with their friends. Yeah. Does that help at all? Cool. Well, we can chat more. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Cool. All right. Thank you.